Hello there, Kirby Jambon here with our first video in my list of my favorite things, or my channel of my favorite things for YouTube. And today I'm going to begin this discussion of my favorite things by actually what inspired me to do this specific channel. I was watching a fan uh, Rush fan video and listening to Rush podcast because my favorite musical group of all time is the Canadian rock trio Rush. Rush was my favorite band back in high school and is my favorite band to this date, even though officially, since the sad passing of Neil Peart, Rush doesn't really exist as a band anymore, but they still remain very dear to my heart. And as all Rush fans know, Rush, once you're into Rush, Rush is with you throughout your whole life. And so let's talk a little bit about Rush. One of the things I was noticing in one of the Rush fan videos, people were talking about how they got into Rush. Where did Rush become part of their lives? And well, for those of you not familiar with the band is a three-piece band, originated originally from Toronto, Canada, and originating well, they actually formed with the original three members back in the late 60s, but recorded their first album in 74. Their original drummer was replaced by Neil Peart. Geddy Lee on bass and vocals, and Lifeson on guitar were this band. And they in the year 2013, I believe, if I'm not getting my dates wrong, I'm not big on dates, is when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they have just a huge catalog of music, gold and platinum records, and for me, they are just really they really represent for me a good spirit of what rock and roll is all about. This spirit of doing feeling your passion and going with it, and not caring about what the critics say or what anybody says, but doing what's in your heart. And so that's a little bit about Rush. We'll talk, I'm sure I'm going to have more and more videos about Rush, but let me just talk about how I got into Rush. Well, how did I begin? It's kind of interesting. Back when I was in high school, as a sophomore in high school, I was in my French 1 class, and one day the teacher, every now and then, the teacher would let us have a day off, and she would, if we had a language lab, we listen to the headphones and you listen to things in the language, and listen to things, bonjour, êtes-vous monsieur Hugues? Oui, je suis monsieur Jean Hugues. Oh, voici une lettre pour vous. And we listen to the conversations in French and blah 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 and all that stuff. Sorry, I was quoting Alex Lifeson there with my blah blahs, but Rush fans will understand that. But what was interesting was that one day she would just let us bring some music so we could listen to over the speakers, or the headphones in the language lab. And this one guy, who's a fellow classmate of mine as a sophomore, when I was a sophomore, brought the album Rush 2112. And OMG, it was it blew me away. We're listening to this in the space intro, and just the hard rock sound of the music, the really passionate sound of the music, just the way they played was right on key. Just Neil's drums and Alex's guitar, and then Geddy's vocals were just I loved high vocals at that time, just really high voice vocals. And he sung about things that most other groups didn't sing about. It was more intellectual, which appealed to me. So it had this really hard, edgy feel to it, and also this kind of intellectual, out there kind of feel to it. And so I was hooked on it. I said, okay, I'm going home right now. And I'm going to order these albums. Back in that days, I would order actually 8-track tapes. That reveals my age. 8-track tapes. I was a member of the Columbia Music Club, and you would order them. And I said, so let me go see what they have about this group Rush. And I had enough money to buy 2. And I said, well, there's a brand new album out called, by that time, there was the second, 2112 was released in 1976, and this was 1977. By 1977, they had a brand new album called A Farewell to Kings. So let me get their latest album. And I said, but I want to get a feel for the rest of their albums. And I saw they had a live album called All the World's a Stage. I said, so let me get those 2. So I ordered those 2 albums, A Farewell to Kings and All the World's a Stage, so I could get kind of a feel of where they're all been. And gosh, it just blew me away. I just was so in love with it. They became almost immediately my favorite band. Now I must say I got into music, got into rock music at an early age thanks to a group like Kiss. Kiss was like my gateway into music. I used to love it. Remember when I was a little kid in junior high school, everything was Kiss, y'all. I loved Kiss. And what's kind of interesting is the fact that Rush started their first U.S. tour as touring with Kiss. You know, two groups that have a very different styles, but they became good friends. So it's really interesting that now Rush became this group of mine. A Farewell to Kings, I must say, remains to this day my favorite album. Even though there's so many other albums that I love and I just think absolutely awesome, I think. But just because of it is a wonderful, fantastic album, and just because it was that first album that brought me to Rush. All the World of Stage also remains my favorite live album. Even though there were some fantastic live performances, you know, Rush in Rio in different stages, some really fantastic ones. They still are my favorite live album that Rush put out. So I really got into Rush, and I'll never forget that my first concert. Now, I'm not one of these Rush fans who've been to like 50, 100 concerts. I've been to exactly 3. Due to circumstances dealing with my work and career and interests and finances and things like that, I only got to go to 3 concerts. I almost got to go see them on the last tour, but I missed it. But I don't know if I regret it. Maybe I regret it. I'll tell you about that a little later. But my first concert was on the tour of the Hemispheres, their second album following A Farewell to Kings. And it began with this kind of like Star Wars intro and into Hemispheres and Cygnus X1 Book 1 and then Book 2 Hemispheres, and had all these great, just the music was fantastic. It was almost like a religious experience. And if I wasn't a absolutely freak for Rush at that point, I was like diehard. Oh, this is it. There is nothing greater. Rush is the best band of all time. I again got to see them on the Moving Pictures tour, which was fantastic. Most people know probably one of the more familiar albums with the music of Tom Sawyer. Excuse me, that's my dog who's sneezing right there. and then of course the third tour I got to see was like the Signals warm-up tour. So I got to see those 3 tours, and I wish I would have got to see more. Yes, I do. And I almost got a chance to go see R40, their last tour, but something came up with my work, and I don't regret it in a sense, because it was very important. I had to be there for I'm a teacher and I'd be there for my students, but I would wish I'd love to go and see that last show as well. But the great thing about it is that I have all those, like, you know, the videos of it. You can buy, like, I have the R40 tour, you know, I have the DVD and the CDs, and I can always watch them and get into them as well. And in my later years, I wasn't really much of a concert goer, you know, so the big crowds weren't as much part of who I was at that point. But still, as a young high school student and a young college student, going to those concerts, wow, blew me away. So I'm a big Rush fan of that in that sense. So just for a few things, A Farewell to Kings remains my favorite album. But some of the other albums I really enjoyed. I mean, I remember actually going back and looking back. One of the things after that time period, after when around the time of Hemispheres Farewell Kings, they put together a package of their first 3 albums, and it was a way that I remember reading about. It was a way to give Caress of Steel a chance, and I actually love Caress of Steel. Some folks don't like it. I love it, especially the long suite on the second side, the Fountain of Lamneth is just fantastic. I love that album, and so that's one of my favorites. Caress of Steel, of course, 2112. Who could not? Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres blows your way back. And then when Permanent Waves came out, I wore that sucker out. Permanent Waves in 1980, wore that sucker out. For me, it was like this combination of where Rush was been and where Rush was going, and it was just a fantastic album. It was hard rock, it was sci-fi, it was prog, but it was also had elements of different styles of new age and reggae music. It was just fantastic. I love that. All the way from Spirit of Radio all the way down to Natural Science. Just 6 fantastic cuts. And then, of course, when they became the band, Moving Pictures, another masterpiece of an album. You can't go wrong with there. So those remain, that period became, as always remains for me, my favorite period of Rush. You know, from that, I mean, I love Rush and Fly By Night, but from Caress of Steel all the way down to Moving Pictures, and probably even including Signals. I really enjoy Signals. Signals is a great album as well. I love them all, except maybe one cut, not too much. But during the next few years, I kind of came in and out with Rush. But I appreciated the music, but I was also into a lot of different things, and there were a lot of different things going on in my life at the time. So I was sometimes into it, sometimes not. I really remember there's a couple of points later, came back like in '89, when they came out with the Presto. For some reason, Presto attracted me. I loved Presto a little bit. And then I came back again a little later, lived back later. I was into the other things happening in my life, moving, going different places. And then actually I got back, I realized, began to appreciate albums like Counterpoints and Test for Echo, not when the albums actually came out, but when the live album came out, different stages. That actually just brought me, I was totally back to being Rush, a big fan of Rush. And then of course the tragedy happened in Neil's life, where they were gone for a little while, but then when they came out with Vapor Trails, oh my gosh, Vapor Trails, one of my favorite albums as well, Vapor Trails, I love that album. And I especially love the original recording, even though they say it was not mastered correctly, it was not engineered correctly or produced correctly or whatever. I love the rawness of it because it feels, it goes along with the tragedy that Neil was experiencing in his life at the time. So I actually love the original version rather than the remastered version of that. And then they continue to put just everything they had into their albums, ending up with that fantastic Clockwork Angels. Clockwork Angels, an album just like, which express, it's actually their first, even though they've been called a concept band, and they never really had a whole album that was a concept. They have thematic elements, but never had a whole album that was a concept, and ending up with a great concept album of Clockwork Angels. Both very hard, also proggy, and conceptual, but also no extremely long songs as they used to have, but it's just really well done, and finishing with a beautiful orchestrated song called The Garden, which kind of, if you listen to the lyrics, it kind of talks about the life of Rush, the life of Neil Peart, who passed away from brain cancer in January of 2020. And so a lot of beautiful music, a lot of great music, and I'm just a big Rush fan. And so I just wanted to make this video to talk about my favorite band, Rush. And if you want to make some comments and talk about your favorite Rush song, what do you like about Rush, please feel free to do so in this video. I'm going to make some more videos about my favorite things at a later time, but just want to start this channel, talk about my favorite things, and of course, why not begin with Rush? Okay? Hey, rock on everybody. Hey, just remember to begin the day with a friendly voice, a companion unobtrusive, that'll play a song that's so elusive. You know, that magic music will make your morning mood. Me quoting Neil Peart from The Spirit of Radio, of course. Well, sort of paraphrasing, whatever. Hey, take care everybody, stay closer to the heart, and rock on. Bye.